Well, OT history class. You've made it to the end of the semester, starting the last week. I've I've been missing you guys. It's been so unusual. I so enjoyed the first half of the semester being in the classroom with you, and there's hardly a day goes by that I don't wish that we could have been together like that the rest of this semester. So um, I'm so sorry. I just want you to know I was really enjoying being in the class with you, and I hope you've been able to get something out of the lectures that were recorded, and um, mainly just these amazing Bible stories. Obviously, the life of David, most recently, uh, just how incredible the amount of truth that we can apply to our lives by looking at his life. So anyway, this is just a review for the Second Samuel exam. By the way, you guys did great on the First Samuel exam. You should have seen your scores by now. Graded those a few days ago. So we got just one more to go, Second Samuel. There's just one last lesson in Second Samuel at the beginning of this week, and then there's an introduction to First Kings. The reason the course stops here, that was planned deliberately. Um, Remember, we're covering over a fourth of the Bible, trying to go story by story, so we would have had to just skim much more superficially to try to get through all of Kings and Chronicles as well. So there's another course that's a sequel to this called Kings and Prophets that kind of picks up where this course leaves off and continues on. It's very similar, except the focus of a lot of the lessons is more leadership type focus in terms of the applications. But that's an elective that you might want to check out at some point that picks up where this course leaves off. So here's the review. As all of the exams, you need to know the title of the book. And remember this, Second Samuel is just the story of the 40-year reign of David. So it's the book of the king. And it doesn't, obviously First Samuel is the first part of his life. The key words, king and David, used almost 300 times each. Um, and then the book is divided outline wise just into two sections. So I know there was subsections in the outline I gave you. You only need to know the two main sections of the book, which are basically the first 20 years and the last 20 years, his triumphs and his trials. I'll ask you about the transition time. If you remember, it was really messy, and it was 7.5 years from the time that Saul died that David actually became king over all Israel. His hometown tribe, of course, Judah, accepted him earlier, but it took that long just to clean up all of Saul's messes and reunite the nation. And so I'll also ask you what those years were like. So go back and review just all the mess of what was going on, the assassinations and the Civil War, and basically how David began his reign by cleaning up Saul's messes, which sometimes God gives us the privilege of doing that too. There's all these characters in the book, and I think I emphasized it through the lectures, but we'll do a whole list of those characters. You need to know who they are, all of the different characters, the Abners and the Mephibosheths and the Ishbosheths, and I think there's a list of names in the review sheet on the info page for the course. Um, then in the book, you know, um, did David mainly have a winning streak or did he lose a lot? Well, obviously, it's an incredible winning streak at the start of the book where he basically was finishing the job that Joshua started. And so there's a lot of victories, even though not many of the stories are recorded in detail there. I'm definitely going to ask you about how David showed kindness to Saul's house for the sake of Jonathan. Remember the Mephibosheth story there in chapter 8, how the son of Jonathan that wasn't able to walk, and David invited him to be a part of his household and to eat at his table, and gave him lands and possessions and inheritance. So unlike the Gentile kings that would always kill their competition. But remember, David's covenant with Jonathan is behind that story. Um, and then obviously, you can't go through this book without seeing the turning point about halfway through where David's sin with Bathsheba uh, just caused the last 20 years of his reign to be so agonizing in so many ways. So definitely we'll ask you about that. And remember, we listed, it wasn't just one sin. It wasn't just all of a sudden he just got caught up in lust in a momentary way. But remember, there was a whole list of sins that he committed. The first one being idleness. He shouldn't even have been home. He should have been at war. Um, so I'll ask you about what were those sins that destroyed David. Then I'll also ask you about what were the consequences. So you remember the prophet Nathan said the sword of consequence would never leave his house. So what were those consequences? You remember the baby died. You remember problems with his sons. Amnon, his son, raped his half-sister Tamar. Then you have the whole Absalom stuff. So you should be able to describe what some of those consequences were. And then you remember his relationship with Absalom was just kind of weird, and it was just like this horrible example of what not to do as a father. You know, he wouldn't discipline him, but he wouldn't relate to him either, and so review that whole story, and so that you can describe the true nature of the quote relationship with Absalom. Um, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the course. Um, like I say, I enjoyed the first half with you, and I've just so missed the second half. Can't wait to get back in the fall and get back in the classroom. But thank you for being such a great class. I've bragged on you a lot this semester. I hope you will fill out the evaluation. I know you do that for each course, but it's online. It's very simple. But we really want to learn from these last 2 months. And even though it hasn't been ideal, and I'm not sure we really done the best of making it as good for you as we could have, but I definitely want to learn from that, not only for now, but for the future. So please be candid with your comments. Appreciate any constructive criticism. Um, just appreciate you doing that evaluation. So thank you for being a part of this course. And I hope some of these stories will just live on in your heart, and some of the truths will just guide you in days that are ahead. So, um, God bless you guys. I love you, and I hope you'll I hope you'll remember these amazing stories. God bless.